Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we welcome everyone to our Bhakti Sastri class. We're studying Bhagavad Gita. This is the final unit of the Bhagavad Gita. And yesterday we covered chapter 14. And we'll review it a little, and then we will go on to tonight to chapter 15. Everyone's with me? You can hear me okay?
Yes, Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, so I'm going to share the screen. Can somebody make me the host? Or make me a co-host?
Yes, you are already co-host, Maharaj.
Oh, we'll stop other computers' sound share. Huh?
Yes, you can now start, Maharaj. I forgot to stop my share.
Okay. So are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Maharaj, you can see your screen.
All right. We'll begin with a little revision. Who can tell me? We will ask somebody, maybe not, we will ask Gita Indulekha not to participate just now. We'll ask some other devotees, can tell us some characteristics of a person situated in the mode of goodness. One quality. Can somebody give one quality?
Maharani Mataji.
They have a conditioned by a sense of happiness, peacefulness, joy.
All right, happiness, yes, thank you. Another one? Somebody else?
Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
They are attached to cultivate knowledge, and they're very clean.
All right, knowledge. That's one quality, one characteristic, yeah, for the people in the mode of goodness. Yes, so happiness, knowledge. There's a couple more. Anybody else?
Yogita Mataji.
Free from sin. Free from sin.
That's not what I was looking for.
Premadhana Prabhu.
Purity without distress.
Yeah.
No, these may be some characteristics, but they're not really prominent characteristics of a person in the mode of goodness. There's also satisfaction. That they're very satisfied. They think, I'm a good person. They feel themselves to be very righteous and good. There's a feeling of satisfaction. They don't think to improve. They don't think there's anything higher, anything above their position. And they also have the feeling of superiority. So these four qualities are prominent there in somebody in the mode of goodness. Happiness, satisfaction, knowledge, and superiority. If you have this student handbook, it's very useful. There's a very good chart. It's on page 71 of the student handbook, and you will see the table with the characteristics of people in the different modes, the workings of the three modes. On page 71, and the four qualities of the four characteristics of people in the mode of goodness is mentioned. Right? And number 2, what is the result of action in the mode of passion?
Misery.
Yes, misery, right. And number 3, how can we transcend the modes?
Sanadan Krishna Prabhu.
Sorry, Maharaj, could you just repeat the question? I got.
How can we transcend the modes?
Engaging in devotion.
Yes, but engaging in devotional service without falling down, right? Unbroken devotional service.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? All right. We'll go ahead. So in the previous class we spoke about the entanglement of the living entity in the modes of nature, how to transcend the modes, with reference to Bhagavad Gita, chapters 13 and 14. Right? A living entity, due to association with the material nature, right? Purusha prakriti stohi bhunte prakriti jangunan. And because we associate with the prakriti, we become entangled in the modes of nature. So this is our situation. And we're entangled in the different modes, some in goodness and passion and in ignorance. And of course it's a combination of all three. It's not that somebody's pure passion or pure goodness or pure ignorance. There's some little bits here and there, a mixture of goodness and passion and ignorance. At different times one mode will be prominent. Different times the mode of passion will... Then we spoke about, did we do this exercise? Did we identify ways we are personally influenced by the mode of passion and ignorance? Did we cover that yesterday?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
Right, okay, so are you thinking about it? Are you conscious not to be influenced by passion and ignorance? Are you all waking up early in the morning for Mongol Arti and not getting angry? We hope so. Controlling the modes. And then practical ways we can develop the mode of goodness. What is the practical way we can develop the mode of goodness?
Hearing and chanting.
By proper ways of living and acting. By living and acting on the spiritual platform as a devotee. Living and acting in Krishna consciousness. Of course, hearing and chanting are important parts of that process. So we cultivate the mode of goodness. It's a challenge. It's a great challenge because we're nityabada. We're conditioned souls. We've been in this world a long time, and our consciousness is covered. And we have to work hard to revive our original consciousness. So we need to develop the mode of goodness. The mode of goodness is there not only in the food we eat, in the way we talk, in the charity we give, in the way we dress, and so many things. Everything, practically. Our home, you can see somebody's home, it's the mode of goodness. Somebody else's home, it's the mode of passion. And somebody else's home is the mode of ignorance. So we want to develop this mode, cultivate. We have to educate people how to properly cultivate this mode of goodness and the value of this mode of goodness. Because if we're in the mode of passion and ignorance, it's very difficult to come up to the level of devotional service. It's a long way, it's a big haul up. But from the mode of goodness, then it's easier. So it's encouraged. I gave some article, I don't know if any of you managed to read it, the article by Barijan Prabhu about cultivating the mode of goodness. And he tells in the article how he was listening to Prabhupada give a lecture about how we should cultivate the mode of goodness. And so he asked a question to Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada, I thought we were all transcendental. I thought devotees are supposed to be transcendental. And so Prabhupada replied to him. He said, yes, the devotees are transcendental, but they have to cultivate the mode of goodness. Generally, they have to cultivate the mode of goodness. That's how they become transcendental, by situating themselves in the mode of goodness. And then we had a look at some of Prabhupada's statements about Prabhupada's mood and mission. Prabhupada was expressing that even if a small percentage of the population become Krishna conscious, it can have a big effect. It can help so much on the world's situation. I was just seeing somebody sent an article it was yesterday, about how vegetarianism has become very popular in Brazil. And it's very interesting because Brazil is the #1 beef exporter in the world. They export so much beef to different parts of the world. But vegetarianism has become very popular. Of course, Brazil has been very much hit by the COVID virus. They've had a lot of problems with that. Many people died and many people diseased. So that may also help in our preaching there. But certainly devotees are helping there to introduce the vegetarianism. It's all part of Prabhupada's movement, helping people change, coming to a better standard. All right, coming on to the 15th chapter. 15th chapter is called Purushottam Yoga, or Yoga Purushottam, I should say. The Yoga of the Supreme Person. Very famous chapter, well-known chapter, not a long chapter, only 20 slokas, but very important. So, as far as the connection to the previous chapter, I related myself that in the previous chapter we were hearing about the entanglement of the living entity in the modes, and his entanglement because of his attachment to sense gratification. So therefore the 15th chapter begins with this description, a description of an analogy, analogy of a tree, but it's a tree, a different tree from the trees we know. It's like an upside down tree, the tree with the roots up and the branches down, right? And the idea is we're in that tree and we have to get out of that tree. The material world is like this tree, and the different living entities are in different parts of the tree, and we all have to get out from that tree. All right, we'll read here. We've got a little quote from Prabhupada. Would someone like to read?
Yes, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. Okay. Association with material nature entangles him. In his constitutional position, a living entity is about the three modes of material nature, but association with material nature entangles him in the different modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Due to the association of these three modes, his desire to dominate the material world is there.
All right, note this, the desire to dominate the material world is there. So this is one of our problems. This is why we're here in this material world. This is what technically is described as a weakness of heart. The weakness of heart, desire to dominate the material world, due to association, simply due to association. Well, go ahead. Can you keep reading, Prabhu?
Yes, Maharaj. By engagement in devotional service in full Krishna consciousness, he is immediately situated in the transcendental position, and his unlawful desire to control material nature is removed.
Thank you, Prabhu. So this is, of course, this was, well, the verse itself is from the previous chapter, 1426. Mam chayo vaya bicharena bhakti yogena sevate. Right? Simply by engaging in devotional service, we can transcend the modes of nature and come to the level of Brahman. So this is taken from Prabhupada's purport. And so you can see how this chapter goes on from that position, that by application of devotional service. Okay, Unit 6, Lesson 2, the Banyan Tree, Purushottam Yoga. This is from previous. All right, different sections of the chapter, 4 sections in this chapter. First of all, the Banyan Tree. Banyan Tree, we're going to hear about our entanglement, our attachment to this idea of controlling and lording over the material nature, and how to cut our way out of the banyan tree to get free. And then we'll go on to hear about the spiritual world and about how we can transmigrate in different bodies, and we can even go into the spiritual world. And then next section, we will hear about how Krishna is maintaining everything. He's maintaining not only the spiritual world, but also the material world, and how he does it, what his different functions are in this material world, and how we're really dependent on him. He's maintaining everyone. We're also being maintained by him. We don't know it, but actually Krishna is maintaining us. And then finally, the summary of Vedanta Sutra. All right, so 4 sections of the chapter. Now this diagram, which I've put on the screen, this illustration is also in the handbook, in the student handbook. I hope you all have it. Do you all have a copy of the student handbook?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, very good. So this is on page 71. This is entanglement, the same page as the modes of nature, because both from this is chapter 15, the previous one was chapter 14. So the entanglement of this material world is compared here to a banyan tree. Do you have banyan trees everywhere? In Indonesia, I'm sure you must have banyan trees, eh? Ashwata tree. Is it? In Indonesia, you have a banyan tree?
Yes.
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes, right. We have them in India. In India, you go to the botanical garden. It's a big one, very big. And we have them in, I guess, most parts of Asia. You'll find them tropical places. Malaysia, Philippines. So you can see here, the tree is, there's a reflection of the tree on the water. The reflection of the tree on the water, because we're going to talk about a very special tree, which is, it has its branches down and its roots up. So where do you find that kind of phenomena? Branches down, the roots up. If we see the tree's reflection in the water, then we can see the tree like that, in a reverse way. The branches down and the root is up. So this example is given by Lord Krishna himself to describe how the living entities are all entangled here in this material world. Let's just see. First point is reflected on desire. I was saying that the tree's reflected on water, but this tree, this banyan tree, the reflection is on desire, our desire, that we desire. We desire what? We desire to enjoy this material world, but we're trying to enjoy the reflection. We're not finding the reality. We're trying to enjoy the reflection. Now, how long can you be happy with the reflection? You want the real thing. So this is the nature. Here you see the urvamulam, the upward roots. Usually the root will be down, but here we have the roots up. The roots up are because they're coming from the spiritual world. The roots are coming from the spiritual world, so the roots are up. And adasakam, the branches are down, right? So this is the different features of this tree. Then the leaves on the tree are like Vedic hymns. The Vedic hymns, Vedic hymns sound very nice. The same way leaves on the tree, the leaves look so beautiful, they're so colorful, So Vedic hymns are like that. But the leaves are of no real value. And so the Vedic hymns, they can only give some temporary material situation. They can help us to go to higher planets. They can satisfy material desires, but they cannot get us free from birth and death. So leaves are like the Vedic hymns. And then the tips of the branches. The tips of the branches are the senses. Just like we have knowledge-acquiring senses, the nose, the eyes, the ears, the skin, and the tongue. So the tips of the branches are like the senses of the tree. The tree is getting his information through the tips of the branches. And another point is the twigs. Twigs are like sense objects. Sense objects, smell, sight, taste, touch. These different things. So, another point from this tree you'll learn also if you read through Prabhupada's purport, there are also fruits on this tree. And the fruits on this tree, they're described as, just like in the material world, we're attached to the fruit. What is the fruit? What would be the fruit in material life? Economic development, sense, right. Religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and liberation. So these are the fruits of this tree, and the tree is nourished by the roots, and the roots of the tree are the three modes of material nature. So in this way, this banyan tree is described. What's the idea of this tree? Idea is, here's the fruits, right? There's the fruits. And then the idea is we have to cut our way out Asanga shastrena dredena chitpa. Right? Asanga. Detachment. We have to get out from this. And how to get free? You will have to have an axe. If you're in a big tree, in this banyan tree, very difficult to find your way out. It can go for miles. You don't know which direction to go. So if you have an axe, you can cut your way out. So the axe of detachment. This is the point that we have to cultivate detachment from this tree, this illusory tree of the material world. It's the reflection of the reality. Do you want to enjoy the reflection? Or do you want the real thing? Right? We're going to give you a car, but we'll just give you the reflection of the car. The reflection of the car. You can't do anything with it. We'll give you $1 million, the reflection. We won't give you any. Just give you you cannot enjoy the reflection. All right? So this material world is compared to a reflection of the real world, of reality. We shouldn't be blinded by the temporary nature of the material world. Okay, we'll go ahead. Cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. All of these things are in your diagram in the student handbook. So please make use of it. All right, would someone like to read Prabhupada's quote? Yes, somebody read?
Yes, just like if you have to keep yourself, the legs are up and the head down. Somebody keeps you like this. How long you will feel comfortable? If somebody takes your legs and catches you, your head down, then it is not very comfortable. So this whole material world is like that. Urdhva mulam, the mulam should have been down, but it is up. Therefore, it is uncomfortable.
Right. Mula means the root. Mula, the root, and urdhva, up. So the root up. So if our legs are up, not very comfortable, right? Sometimes the little child may come, the father may play, may hold the child by the legs upside down. The child will not be comfortable for long. So the same way, we should not be comfortable in this material world. The quote continues, Mariji, please continue.
Another explanation is it is perfected reflection. We have got experience of the Urdhva Mulam. On the bank of the river, of the bank of the pond, tree is standing, but the reflection, we find that the same tree has become Urdhva Mulam and Adastrakam. So by this statement, Kanya says...
Krishna said that the font is wrong, sorry.
Okay. Krishna says that this is not real. The reflection in the water of the tree is not real. Real tree is up. Similarly, real enjoyment, real verities, everything is in the spiritual world. It is simply reflection. It is not fact. Therefore, our enjoyment here is called Maya or illusion.
Right? So Prabhupada is explaining very clearly the nature of the material world in relation to this example given to us in the 15th chapter by Lord Krishna. Krishna says, this is not real. The reflection, we're enjoying our happiness, our pleasure here in this material world is all the reflection of the real world. So real enjoyment is in the spiritual world, we're just trying to, our happiness is just some illusion from the reflection of the real enjoyment. And then in relation to this asanga shastrena dredena chitva, that one should cut himself out with the weapon of detachment. Yes, someone read?
Krishna. To get out of the entanglement of the strong banyan tree of material life, one must surrender to Krishna. As soon as one surrenders unto Krishna, one becomes detached automatically from this material extension.
All right. So we're given the solution, how to get out from this material world. Surrender to Krishna. When we surrender to Krishna, then we will become detached from the material world automatically. So this is the solution to the problem. Banyan tree, the material world, it's like a strong banyan tree. The branches grow in the ground. The tree is so firm, you can't do anything with it. It's so firm, it's so deeply rooted, so many branches in the ground, so it's very strong. How to get out? We have to take shelter of Krishna. So we take shelter of Krishna by surrendering to Krishna. And this next verse from the 15th chapter describes the surrendering process. Prabhupada begins the purport to this verse saying this is the surrendering process, verse number 5 in the chapter. Would someone like to read?
Yes, Maharaj. Nirvana moha different melody. Nirvana moha jita sanga dosha adhyatma nitya vinibrita kama dvandva vimukta sukha dukha samgar gachanti amudha padam avyayam tat.
Yeah, can you read the English?
Dualities of happiness and distress, and who, unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal kingdom.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. So, Prabhupada says this is the surrendering process. We have to get rid of this false prestige, or this pride, this attachment, this illusion that we're comfortable, that we're happy here in this material world. And we have to understand that our real home is not here, but in the spiritual world. We want to go back to be with Krishna. So we have to, in order to go back to be with Krishna, just like we heard in the 14th chapter, the example is given, we have to become like Brahman. To associate with the Supreme Brahman, we have to also become Brahman. Or Krishna is like gold, we have to also become like gold. Then we can be with Krishna, we can associate with Krishna. So in order to get into the spiritual world, in order to really surrender to Krishna and attain that eternal kingdom, we have to qualify. And we have to get rid of all these different unwanted qualities. Particularly this nirmana moha, jita sanga dosha, the faults, right? Faults. We have to get free of this false prestige, this false ego, this pride that I'm somebody, I'm important, I have a position, I have power or something like all of these different things which come in our mind. We have to get rid of all of these thoughts and understand our actual position as a spirit soul, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord Krishna. And then we can actually surrender to Krishna. So we have to purify our consciousness. Our consciousness is originally pure, but due to the association with the material energy, the consciousness becomes covered. Just like the light. Light is originally white, but you pass light through different colored glass, it will take on the color of the glass. So we want to purify our consciousness, we want to become worthy of being a servant of Krishna. And then we can attain to the kingdom of God. So then Krishna goes on, in this verse in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is going to go on to describe more about the kingdom of God. Because he wants to attract us. He wants to tell us a little bit about the kingdom of God, that we will become interested to go there. Right? So the next verse describes that. Right? 15:6. Someone can read?
Yes, Maharaj. Natat bhashyatin suryo na sasanka na pavaka yagatva na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. That supreme abode of mind is not illumined by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world.
All right. So, Prabhupada explains in the purport to this verse, he said, one should become fascinated by this information. We should think, oh, I really want to go there. Just like, we hear about, maybe somebody's living in Hong Kong or somebody's living in India and they hear about Bali and they think, oh, I really want to go there. I really want to go to Bali and see Bali. Or somebody's living in America and they hear about India and they think, oh, I really want to go to India. And people are in India and they hear about America and they think, I really want to go there and see that place. But what we really want to do is to go to the spiritual world, to get out of this material world. And we should become most fascinated hearing about the spiritual world. Krishna describes it here. Supreme abode, not illuminated by the sun or moon, nor by fire or electricity. Does it mean everything is dark and cold? What do you think? If there's no sun and moon, there's no fire, no electricity, it must be very dark, must be very cold, is it? Huh?
No, Maharaj.
No? Why not? Why not?
It is illumined by the effulgence coming from the Lord.
Yes, what is that effulgence?
Brahma-jyoti.
Yeah, Brahma-jyoti, the internal potency of the Lord, right? It's illuminated by the effulgence. Definitely it's not dark, it's not cold. You can see, look, we put beautiful illustrations here. This is the spiritual world. Our paintings are windows into the spiritual world. Prabhupada never told us that it was very cold and dark there. No, there's a lot, everything is there. Beautiful trees and forests and cows and everything. Very beautiful, very opulent. So there's no difficulties. And one who reaches it never comes back to this material world. So this brings in the question, well, did we fall from the spiritual world? Did we actually fall from the spiritual world? If we go there, is it true we won't have to come back again to the material world? Well, Krishna is saying it like that. The point is that if we get there, we'll become so fascinated with the spiritual world, we'll never want to leave there. But if we were originally Krishna conscious, why did we leave and come here? That's a difficult question to answer. Prabhupada simply said, living entity is marginal, right? We're tatastha. We have free will. So at any time we may want to leave, we can come back to the spiritual world. But generally, the general rule is that those who go there never want to come back. They never want to return to this material world. Because they know the nature of this material world. I think there's nothing there. Don't want to go there again. We should think like that. So this is a nice statement Lord Krishna is making. Prabhupada has given some comment on this. Someone can read?
What is this foolishness? Why should you pay the electric bill? Go there and live there. There is no need of natat bhasayate. It is. The spiritual world is not lighted by the sun, moon, because everyone is effulgent. Every planet is effulgent. So therefore, there is no need of these things. There is no ignorance. There is no scarcity. There is no miserable condition. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.28.21.
All right, so Prabhupada is explaining something to us here about the spiritual world. Certainly there's no miserable condition there. No scarcity, no ignorance. The spiritual world means Sat Chit Ananda. If there was some miserable condition or scarcity, how could it be Ananda? So spiritual world is a joyful place. And and he's saying, no electricity bill. You know, some places we have always, save the electricity, don't burn the electricity, it's so expensive, you have to spend so much for electricity. Electricity for heating the water, because water's so cold in the winter. Want to have a hot water bath, a hot water shower, and want to have central heating because it's so cold. If you don't have some heating, it's very cold, even in the room, in the apartment, very cold. Though you can end up paying a lot of money for electricity. But Prabhupada said, you don't have to pay. Go to the spiritual world, live there. So that you want to economize, you want to save, go to the spiritual world. You can save. And it's not miserable, it's joyful there. Okay, so Prabhupada's purport 15.6, which I quoted to you. One should be captivated by this information. He should desire to transfer himself to that eternal world and extricate himself from this false reflection of reality. Right? This material world is the false reflection of reality. We're thinking this to be reality. It's just a reflection. It's not real. So we should be captivated with this information about the spiritual world. I remember there was this one Chinese student I met. They were planning to take an examination to go to study in America. And in preparation for the exam, they had memorized every word in the dictionary. Just imagine how serious they were and how determined they were to do well in that examination, that they took the trouble to memorize every word and the meanings of each word in the dictionary. So we should have that kind of determination, that kind of seriousness, that kind of commitment to want to go back to be with Krishna in the spiritual world. We should be very determined. I really want to go there to be with Krishna, to join with Krishna. All right? Okay, exercise. Time for an exercise for you. we haven't got up to verse 15:15, or we haven't even gone up to 15:7, but we want you to look at the purport in the verses, 15:7, 15:15, and think about some different ways in which we could use these verses for preaching. Not only the verse, the purport, statements in the purport. Pick out the different philosophical points which are good for preaching Krishna consciousness. All right? Can we have, how many people have we got here tonight?
53 Maharaj, 51 Maharaj.
51? All right, could we put people in a group?
Yes, of course Maharaj, if you want, but like yesterday you said that there are so many people.
Yeah, but we got to try some group work. You can just put like maybe 8 in a group or something. Eight in a group. 8 6s are 48, and a few more. Maybe how many you got? 51.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, so some groups will have 9 and other groups 8.
Okay, Maharaj. So Balakrishna Prabhu, are you there?
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm here. Yes, can you hear me, Prabhu? Hare Krishna. You have to select.
Yajnadanishta Prabhu, I think you need to choose the interpretation as English. Then you can hear Balakrishna.
Yes, Prabhuji, I'm here. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Bol, Yajnadanishta Prabhu, you please change to English interpretation. Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Prabhu, now? The others can hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, we can hear you, but not Yajnadanishta Prabhu.
Yeah. Okay. Hare Krishna. Okay. Rooms. 6. Options. How long will we have breakout rooms?
Well, about 5 minutes or 8 minutes.
8 minutes. Okay. Open.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. This is room number 1.
Okay, room number 1. So are you clear what you have to do? Have you checked the verse? 15:7?
Yes.
Maybe half the group can take 15:15 and half the group take 15:7, and that will save time. Because you have 8 people in the group, so you could share it, share the work between the, people.
We could 15-7, Maharaj.
Okay,
This is group number 1.
Yeah, but I'm saying within your group you've got 8 people.
Oh.
So
4 of us will do 15-7, 4 will do 15.
Yes.
15. Yes.
So you can assign 4 people.
15-7. Pramadhan Prabhu, 15-7. Atma Prabhu and Parvati Mataji, 15-7. Jitakrodha Prabhu, Sureshwara Devidasi and Santushti Radha, Manishi Das, Bhavagrahi Prabhu, 15-15.
Yes.
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, so go ahead, read it through. Hare Krishna, are you clear what you're doing? Oh. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Are you okay about what you're doing? Are you working on it all right? You understand the question?
Yes, Maharaj, we are working on that.
It might be an idea to divide up. You have 2 slokas. Maybe 4 people take 15-7 and 4 take 15-15.
Okay.
Might save the time. Hare Krishna. Are you okay, Mataji? Are you working on this?
Maharaj. Yes, Maharaj. We are reading it so that we can discuss it.
Okay. It might be a good idea, maybe 4 people take 15-15 and 4 people take 15-7.
Yes, Maharaj. We'll do that, Maharaj.
Okay. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Paragraph below.
That's the second paragraph.
Yes, it's written over here. If mode of passion is activity is troublesome and mind in the mode of ignorance.
Ramesh Prabhu who has responded. I don't know about the others.
Haribol. So Prabhu, maybe you can add about Manasastranindrayani. So why our is eternal soul, but why we misery here? Because our mind, our senses is want to enjoy this material nature.
Hare Krishna Prabhus.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
How are you doing? Have you come up with some points?
We are still reading, Maharaj. But I personally got one point that we are suffering in this material because we misuse our independence and we become conditioned. So we have to be free from that. So we can tell people like that.
Okay, so you can...
One point I got. Yes, Maharaj?
You could preach about people want to be happy, but they're all suffering.
Yeah.
Nobody's really happy. Although they want to be happy, they're not finding happiness.
Yeah. And so they often don't know why they suffer.
Yeah.
We try to tell them.
Okay, so we have to close now. We go back to the main room.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Hare Krishna. Is everyone back in the main room?
No, Maharaj, there are a few devotees only. So.
Oh, okay. Give them a few more minutes, another minute.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes?
Please kindly select English again.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Is everyone back in the room now?
Yes, most of them, Maharaj.
All right, I think we'll begin. We'd like to hear from, maybe we'll start from group number 6. And we'll hear first of all from them, 1 point. Just give 1 point which you came up with, which you could preach with from these verses. Group number 6. Can we have a spokesman? Yes?
Yes. I'm the spokesman, Maharaj. I'm Giridhari Das. And so, what we have from the first verse 5 from the 15th chapter, that in order to do preaching, what is useful from this verse is that 1 point, that everyone wants happiness. And here, Prabhupada, from verse 7 or text 7, yeah, text 7. So here, Srila Prabhupada said that we as the soul, we have independence, but we are suffering now because we misuse that independence and then become conditioned. So, but actually...
So how are you going to use it to preach? Who are you going to preach to?
Maybe the suffering person, or
all right,
person.
People in distress, people suffering.
People in distress. Maybe in hospital or maybe in jail.
And you tell them, and how are you going to go about using this verse to preach to them?
This verse said that we are internal fragment parts of the Lord. So we maybe don't know that. You maybe don't know that. But in here, the Lord Himself said that. And due to our conditioned life, which is caused by our misuse of independence, we are struggling very hard and also...
Okay, all right, thank you very much. Okay, so we have to hear from another group. Let's hear somebody from group number 5.
I don't know which group.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
I represent group number 5. And from text number 7, like the previous speaker said, our duty is to make people understand their miserable suffering condition, the reason for it. And in doing that, we first give them hope to understand that they are part and parcel of Krishna. They are eternal, but their present situation is temporary, and whatever they are experiencing also is temporary. And if they make judicious use of the quality they have of God, which is independence, then they can get back to enjoying. And it will also prevail on them to understand that it is because they misuse their independence. That's why they are suffering now. So if they utilize their independence properly by becoming servants of God and living godly life, their situation will change automatically.
Okay, all right, so you're going to preach to the distressed people also, huh?
Everybody in the material world is distressed.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's hear group number 4. Do we have a spokesman from group 4? Yes, Maraji?
Maharaj, I do not, because by the time I joined, I didn't realize which group I was in. I'm not sure, Maharaj.
Okay.
I
So
can speak for group number 4.
You were in group...
Who's in group?
Okay.
3, Mataji.
I'm in group 2. All right. Thank you so much, Prabhu.
3, Mataji.
Okay, 3. All right.
So group 4, we want the spokesman for group 4?
Yeah, Gita Indulekha Mataji was in group 4.
Okay, Gita Indulekha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, like we can encourage the people to read Srimad Bhagavatam. As Prabhupada has said, ki Vedas offer knowledge of we can say that Vedas offer knowledge about Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the commentaries on Vedanta Sutra by Vyasdev is Bhagavatam. So they can understand Vedanta Sutra by reading Bhagavatam. We can encourage them reading this Srila Prabhupada books, and in this also the Shlok 15.15 itself, it's written over there. The Krishna has said, I am the knower of the Vedas and compiler of the Vedas. So Krishna has compiled these for us fallen souls only. And He is so merciful that He is giving us remembrance and knowledge also, that we can study. We can say that He is giving us the knowledge that we can read the scriptures, understand them, and go back to Godhead.
All right, yes, very nice. Yes. All right, so on the basis of 1515, encourage people to read Srimad Bhagavatam because it's a teaching of the Vedas. It's the incarnate, actually Srimad Bhagavatam is the incarnation of Krishna, right?
Yes.
Okay, so did anybody else in your group, did they do 15.7? Do you have any point from 15.7?
Yes, Maharaj, we have Maharaj, in that shlok we find that if you are in passion, your activities are troublesome, and in ignorance you will go to the lowest species. So what's the use of, we can say like that, what's the use of being in mode of passion and ignorance? You should be in mode of goodness, come to the mode of goodness, and then we can meet Krishna personally in his abode. We can go over there and live a more blissful life over there. Suffering here.
All right. So tell people to come up to the mode of goodness, right? Thank you. All right, group number 3.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
So this is from 15 point. I'm Archana Bhakti Radha Devi Dasi, and this is 15.7 Maharaj. So here one thing very important is Sanatana, and many people have this misconception that we are just this life and this is the end of it, and there is nothing beyond it. And so this is a good thing to tell them that we are actually eternal souls who are in this body, which is temporary. And repeatedly we take bodies as per our different afflictions to different modes, and also tell them how it is said the living entities, not only human beings, also cats and dogs, greater controllers of material, Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, all of them are different parts and parcels of the Lord. And as per our modes, or as per that, we are given different bodies. But in the real thing, we are all eternal. We are eternal, fragmental parts of the Lord.
So who are you preaching to? Which particular kind of people are you preaching to?
We can preach to people, especially those people with that philosophy who say that we have only just one life and we are finished with it. Maybe not exactly atheists, but who, in a way, atheists, yes, who think that it is only one life that you have and there is no life, so just live your life happily and that's the end of it.
Okay.
Honest, or maybe, I don't know, those kind of people.
So this is based on 15.7.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji.
And did anybody look at 15.15?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes? We have another person there from your group who can...
Yes, Maharaj, I'm sure.
Yeah, please tell us what was your...
Maharaj, in this verse, the Vedas, the understanding of the Vedas are defined here, and the Vedas offer the knowledge of the Krishna, which is the incarnation Krishna, and Krishna as the incarnation of Vyasadeva, he has compiled the Vedanta Sutra. So Vyasadeva in Srimad Bhagavatam, he has compiled the Bhagavatam, and we can approach people to study Bhagavatam.
Okay, so this is very similar to Gita Indoleka. This is the same point as Gita Indoleka.
So by understanding the Vedic literature, one can understand relationship with the Supreme Personality of God, Maharaj.
Oh, all right, thank you. So you're preaching to what kind of people?
We can preach to the people who have no knowledge about Krishna. We can approach them and we can encourage them reading Bhagavatam as well as Bhagavad Gita.
Okay. New devotees. So you're bringing them up fast. You want new devotees to start reading Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. All right, text group number 2. Someone from group number 2, spokesman? Yes? Who was in group number 2?
Maharaj, maybe I can try.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. So, actually, many devotees spoke about this free will. I wanted to say something about this, that in text 7, that we are struggling because it is our fault. We cannot blame Krishna, and people they can ask why I'm suffering, why I'm, for example, have no money, I'm ugly, and this, that. So they can say that God is unfair. So we can preach them that it is because of our bad choice, and we can speak very nicely about this Tatashta Shakti and explain whole thing. So this one thing from text 7, and what I got in my mind from text 15, it is that we can preach to scientists that, because Krishna is saying, I'm seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. So we can preach to scientists that without Krishna's confirmation, we cannot do anything, even just remember something. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes people, they have memories from past life, even although they're not conscious of their past life. Like sometimes a young child can play the piano without any education. Somehow they had that from previous life. So
it is not our ability to remember everything. Like we can remember something, but in one point we can lose this ability. So we can see that it is not in our hands.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. What about group number 1?
Swarup Krishna Prabhu, maybe he'll speak.
Yes?
Krishna. Hare Krishna, from verse number 7, we will teach to new devotees, where Krishna says, where in the purport it's mentioned that Krishna is manifested in various forms, like Lord Rama, Nrsimha, Vishnu Murti, and deities in the Vaikuntha planets. So one will tell stories about Lord Rama, Nrsimha, Vishnu Murti, and predominating deities in the Vaikuntha planets, and make them interested in this verse, in which it's mentioned that Krishna is all the living entities are my eternal fragmental parts. So one will slowly lead this particular group of devotees to just know this. I mean, obviously, like just at the level of knowledge, we will try to take them.
And 15:15, anything?
15:15, we will be talking to college-going students, maybe students in higher class, upper class, where we will say that, see, Krishna is the source of all knowledge, all remembrance, as well as all forgetfulness. So in an exam, before an exam, one has to study. So there will be knowledge which is required. So you will use your mind for gaining knowledge. And during the exam, when there are questions, you have to answer the questions. You will use your intelligence, the remembrance. And there could be times when you would know the answer, but you would forget the answer. All of these are coming from Krishna only. Krishna mentions it in this particular verse. And so we should be depending on Krishna even for our exams.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so, and one point I noticed was nobody picked up on 14.7 about using it to preach to the impersonalists, or the Mayavadis. Lord Krishna has said there, Mami Vamsa Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that we're eternally part and parcel of the Lord. And we do not become one, we don't merge. The impersonalists, Mayavadis, Vedantists, their theory is that the living entity is going to merge into the Brahman and lose the individuality. But Krishna uses the word Sanatana, eternally, that we're eternally the part and parcel of the Lord. So it's a very useful verse in presenting this eternal individuality of the living entity to the impersonalists. to the Advaitists who claim that there's only one. And so that's one point which I thought we should use that verse in. 15:15, Prabhupada talks about forgetfulness, that Krishna allows us to forget sometimes. The idea is that when we forget, then we can enjoy more. So long as we are remembering, you just like Prabhupada gives the example, when you're in the drama, if you're on the stage, you want to forget who you are in real life. And you want to enter into the mood of the part you're playing on the stage in the drama. But if you're always thinking, the person opposite you, who's supposed to be your enemy, that he's actually your friend, then you won't play very well. So that when one is able to forget his reality and enter into the illusion or the part of the drama, then you can actually enjoy. So this is one application of this verse. And even a devotee had come to Prabhupada and he told Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, he says, sometimes I'm always remembering my things I did before I became a devotee. He said, even when I'm chanting Hare Krishna, memories come in my mind about the sinful things I did before I was a devotee. And he asked Prabhupada, why is this? And Srila Prabhupada explained to him, he said, this is the super soul, and he's telling you that if you ever go back again to the material life, then you'll go back to that kind of life again. So the super soul is reminding you, telling you, don't go back again into that material world. Become very serious and commit yourself fully to Krishna's service. And super soul is reminding us from the past. And even when we take our next birth, the super soul carries the memories into the next birth. We forget. Right? Krishna said to Arjuna in the 4th chapter, many, many births both you and I have had. I can remember all, but you cannot. And so the super soul has this function, helps us to remember our desires. Sometimes to forget, and sometimes to remember, sometimes to give knowledge. So many different functions the super soul is doing in the heart. And it's in the heart of all living entities, not just only humans, Christians have the idea that it's only soul, the soul is only in the human. They think there's no soul in the animal. Or they think that the soul in the animal is different from the soul in the human. And this is they think that so, therefore it's all right for us to kill him. But Krishna says, no, I'm in the hearts of all living entities. And so we want to establish these kind of principles. So those are some points I thought. Okay, let's go on to, let me go back to the slide presentation. I have to share the screen again. Okay, can everyone see the slide?
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, good.
Yes, Maharaj.
Okay, good. Yeah, actually that's the next exercise. You can see here, personal application exercise. From a lecture by Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, unless we forget completely, actually we cannot enjoy. In order to enjoy, we have to forget that we're not the body. We have to forget that we're spirit souls. Then you can actually enjoy. Enjoy means enjoy the senses. So how can understanding this concept enhance our practice of sadhana bhakti? Anyone like to suggest? How can this concept help us in sadhana bhakti? How can we actually enjoy when we forget everything? Do you have any experiences like this in sadhana bhakti, where you forget everything and you really enjoy?
Maharaj, I have one experience.
Yes?
I used to cook in my home, and sometimes I used to have the lectures of Srila Prabhupada while cooking. And in that case, sometimes I used to forget to use like salt and so many things in my cooking.
And you would enjoy your cooking, right?
Yes, Maharaj, I enjoy my cooking.
Even without salt. Now sometimes, anybody else has a contribution in this?
Yes, Maharaj.
Yes?
Yes, Maharaj. Like when we are learning the shlokas, we forget everything and we are always like when I was learning shlokas of Bhagavad Gita, it was just like I was always learning them. I forgot everything. I just was not even when I was having my food or I was sleeping, I was just remembering them. So it's feeling is very good that we are always with Krishna, we are always with Bhagavad Gita, we are always with Krishna.
Yes, right, good. Yeah, sometimes we're really busy, maybe a big festival coming, Rath Yatra or Janmashtami, you have so many things to do. You forget about sleeping. You forget about eating. Just like Gita Indulekha saying, she's just remembering so many slokas. So sometimes we're so busy organizing for the program, for the festival, we forget about everything. Forget about the family, forget about eating and sleeping. But we really enjoy. So this helps us in our sadhana bhakti. Okay?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Maharaj, I was saying even while Aarti, when I see the Aarti participate and chant and dance during Aarti, I just completely forget everything else and just get so absorbed in seeing the deities and being with all the devotees. It really feels like the spiritual world.
Wonderful. Very good. Yes. Very nice. You transcend the body, right?
Yeah. For those moments.
Okay, we're going to go ahead. Here's 15:15. You see Vedanta Krit. Who is Vedanta Krit? Vedanta Krit, Srila Vyasadeva, right? The author of the Vedas. So, 15:16, as already explained, the Lord, in his incarnation as Vyasadeva, compiled the Vedanta Sutra. Here, the Lord is giving, in summary, the contents of the Vedanta Sutra. Right? The contents of Vedanta Sutra is the summary of the Vedas. Veda is knowledge, and Anta is the end of knowledge. So Vedanta, the end of knowledge, in a sutra. Sutra, Prabhupada said, means condensed. You know, just like condensed milk. You get a tin of condensed milk. There's no water in it. It's all thick milk. So Vedanta Sutra is very condensed form of the Vedas. So here also in the Bhagavad Gita, in this 15th chapter, there are 3 verses which are called the Tri-Sloki Gita. And it begins with this verse, 15:16, and then 17 and 18. They're the Tri-Sloki Gita. You had already the Chatur-Sloki Gita in the 10th chapter. Here in the 15th chapter, you have the Tri-Sloki Gita. Right? So Srila Vyasadeva compiled Vedanta Sutra, and Krishna is giving the summary of the Vedanta Sutra. All right? the Tri-Sloki Gita, essence of the Veda in 3 verses. Let's look at these verses. First one describes 2 classes of being, the fallible and the infallible. Fallible, Sanskrit word shara, and the infallible, ashara. Infallible, they don't fall down. Fallible, they can fall down, and the infallible, they never fall down. In other words, there's the conditioned soul and the liberated soul. In the material world, every living entity is fallible, and in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. Alright, so basic knowledge, Sambandha, this is Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha, knowledge of the relationship between the Lord and the living entities. So Krishna is first of all describing the living entities, and we will hear the next verse, 17. Besides these 2, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the 3 worlds and is maintaining them. So, we heard about the living entities, now we're hearing about the Supreme Lord. This is also Sambandha Gyan, the Supreme Soul. And text 18, because I am transcendental beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. So this is the Tri-Sloki Gita, the summary of the Vedanta Sutra, describing the living entities, that there are 2 kinds of living entities, fallible and infallible, and above them all, there's the Supreme Lord. And the Supreme Lord is beyond everyone, He's the greatest, right? Sounds like somebody we remember from before, right? So that's the Tri-Sloki Gita, and these 3 verses are all dealing with Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan, knowledge of the relationship with the Lord and the living entities who are His energy. Okay, going ahead. Purushottam Yoga, 15:19 describes Janati Purushottamam Sa Sarvavit. Whoever knows me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead without doubting is the knower of everything. So this verse is not Sambandha, but this verse is Abhidaya. Abhidaya Gyan. Abhidaya Gyan means knowledge of the process of devotional service. How to do it? What do we have to do? The first 3 slokas were giving us the Sambandha Gyan about the relationship, and now we have to apply that knowledge. And how to apply that knowledge? Krishna is saying, whoever knows Him as the Supreme Lord without doubting, He's the knower of everything. So this is the Sambandha Gyan. And the final verse, 15... Oh, okay, first a quote from the purport, 15:19. Prabhupada writes, one should submissively hear from Bhagavad Gita that these living entities are always subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anyone who is able to understand this, according to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, knows the purpose of the Vedas. Right? So we have to hear. That's the main point. Then, 15:20. 15:20, still haven't got the sloka yet, eh? Anyone who is the knower of everything. Therefore, the rest of the sloka, he therefore engages himself in full devotional service to me, O son of Bharat. So this is the abhidaya. This is the process of devotional service. You do devotional service. Bhajati mam sarva bhavana bharata. This is how to apply that knowledge of relationship, by engaging in devotional service. 1520, the last verse from the purport, Prabhupada explains, in this chapter, the first 5 verses, remember we were describing about the tree and the reflection, the banyan tree and the reflection with the roots up and the branches down. So Prabhupada said the first 5 verses describe the process of freeing oneself from these weaknesses of heart. And the rest of the chapter, from the 6th verse through the end, discusses Purushottama Yoga, the yoga of the Supreme Person, how to connect to the Supreme Person. Oh. I have to put another slide in there to make up for that verse. Anyway, if you open your Bhagavad Gita anyway, you can read verse number 20 is, we haven't put it on the slide, maybe I lost it somehow, it got deleted. But the 1520, the verse, the sloka, describes prayojana, or the goal of devotional service. Right? 1520, prayojana, the goal of devotional service. Does somebody have a book there? You can read 1520 for me?
Yes, Maharaj. Iti uyatamam sastram idam upam maya naga etat budwa bodhi mamsya krita krityasya bharata. This is the most confidential part of the Vedic scripture. Most sinless one, and it is disclosed now by me. Whoever understands this will become wise, and his endeavors will know perfection.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's the prayojana, become wise and know perfection. This is the Purushottam Yoga. The weaknesses of heart, right, which were described, getting free from the weaknesses of heart. The weaknesses of heart were this identification with the material energy, becoming attached to it. So this, and wanting to enjoy the material energy, independent of Krishna. So this is the weakness of heart. And the first 5 verses were dealing with helping us to get free from that tendency, so that we can actually engage in devotional service. All right, let's see. One thing we didn't do, let's see, if we go back to the overview of the verse, we spoke about Krishna as the maintainer, right? We heard about Krishna as the maintainer. So that was described in the Bhagavad Gita. One section is there in the Bhagavad Gita about Krishna as the maintainer. Can somebody tell me, in what way are we dependent on Krishna? Anybody?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Even for the digestion of food that we eat, we depend on Krishna to provide heat in the stomach. That's one way we depend on Krishna.
Okay, so
for the crops to grow also, we require the provision of the moonlight for the vegetables to grow. And moonshine is said to be the eye of Krishna, the moon and the sun.
So what does the moon do to the vegetables?
It gives gravity gravitational pull for them to grow and produce.
Okay. And anybody else would like to offer some ways in which Krishna is maintainer?
Maharani Mataji. Maharani Mataji, would you like to say something? No. Gita Induleka Mataji?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. From Krishna we get the sun and the moon, and the light of the sun and the moon are from Krishna only, and which dissipates the darkness of this world. And by the Krishna's mercy only we can digest our food, and he only produces food, and we can digest food. And also all the planets stay in orbit by his energy only, by Krishna's energy only. Kama Vishya Bhutani Dharyame Ojasa.
All right. All the planets are staying in orbit by the grace of Krishna. Prabhupada gives the example. What's the example Prabhupada gives in the purport?
He offered a handful of dust, if there is some dust that we can hold it.
Right. If we have a handful of dust in our hand, we hold a handful of dust in our hand, but as soon as we open our hand, the dust can all fall out and fall down. But Krishna is holding all the planets in his hand, and he keeps them all in orbit, right?
Yes.
What the scientists may call it gravity, but it's actually Krishna. Krishna who's maintaining everything, holding everything. Everything is under his control, right? Okay. Any other examples about how Krishna is maintaining? We heard about the light of the sun and the moon, and we heard about the food.
Yes, Swarup Krishna Prabhu.
So even verse 15 is part of the concept of Krishna as maintainer. Krishna says he's sitting in the heart and he makes one remember. He makes one remember him. When we remember him, then there is purification that happens. So we are dependent on Krishna for our purification.
All right. Krishna also comes to write scriptures for us, right? To give us the Bhagavad, to speak the Bhagavad Gita, and for Vyasadeva to write down the Vedas. So it's all helping us to get spiritual knowledge. For those people who are interested, who are desiring spiritual progress, Krishna facilitates, provides the scriptures. Anything else Krishna does?
Archana Bhakti Radha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Krishna is also the life force, and he's within the air, and even he's within the sound, within the body, within the air.
What's he doing?
So it's like within the stomach as the digestive force, it is said here.
Yes, we heard that. We heard it's the digestive force. What's he doing in the air?
He's the prana, incoming and outgoing air.
Okay.
Breathing.
He's the prana, in the life air in the body.
Life air, yes, Maharaj.
Krishna says also, I'm the sound in ether.
He's the sound in the ether. Yes, Maharaj. It is said that. He's also I don't know if it's there in the text, but he's Hrishikesha. So because our senses are working because of him.
Okay.
He's the controller of our senses.
He's the proprietor of the senses. Yes, good. Yes.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, we are eternally parts of Krishna, so our very existence is dependent on him. If, like as a soul, so if it was not for him, we wouldn't exist.
All right. Yes, we said Mami Vamsa Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that we're eternally part of Krishna, part and parcel.
Yeah.
15:7.
Maharani Mataji. I think Maharani Mataji doesn't hear me.
All right? Then we didn't speak about transmigration either. In the section on transmigration, there's also an example given by Krishna, an analogy. How does the transmigration take place? Did anyone pick up on the analogy which is given there?
Yes, Maharaj. As air carries aroma.
Right. Just like the air carries the aroma. When the air passes over the rose garden, it carries the aroma of the roses. And when the same air passes over the garbage, then it carries the aroma of the garbage. So in this way, we carry our different conceptions from one life to the next, right? If we're in the mode of goodness, we carry that conception to the next life. If we're in passion or ignorance, it will determine the appropriate body in the next life. So this way transmigration is working. We get a particular body with a whole set of senses. All right, are there any questions then on this chapter?
Sir Krishna Prabhu, do you have a question? No? Ganga Prasad Prabhu,
No,
do
no.
you have a question?
No questions?
Jyoti Radha Mataji. Okay. Ganga Prasad Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. My question is from text number 9, where it says, thus taking another gross body, the jiva obtains new ears, eyes, tongue, nose, and sense of touch, all grouped about the mind, and thus he enjoys sense objects. So like I asked the other day, how does the soul suffer or enjoy? But here, can we deduce that it is actually the mind that is, since every of these senses are grouped around the mind is the real operator, the mind the one who experiences happiness, the mind is the one who experiences enjoyment and suffering. Can we extract this?
Can we extract this?
Yeah, this info, I mean, that the mind is the main central point of all experiences of material life.
Yes, the mind is the center of the senses, yes.
And so, happiness, enjoyment, and suffering is also by the mind.
Yes.
That's the understanding I wanted, Myra. Thank you.
Yes, the happiness and the distress are what we experience by the mind, right? Our mind experiences pleasure and pain, not the soul. The soul is by nature always joyful, but the mind experiences these things.
Thank you, Maharaj.
In Krishna Prabhu. Asim Krishna Prabhu, do you have any question?
Yes, Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisances. Maharaj, I was asking that if in the spiritual world everybody is effulgent and going and there is no need of light, then is there night there? Does Krishna sleeps there? The pastimes of the sleeping,
Sleep
is it there?
of the body. Sleep is that of the body.
Does Krishna sleep? Is there sleeping in the spiritual world?
Yes, Maharaj.
Well, there's the impression of time, although there's not actually any influence of time in the spiritual world. It's not like time as we know it in the material world, because time, with the passage of time in the material world, everything is decaying and destroying and diminishing, deteriorating. But in the spiritual world, there's none of that. So there's no impression of old age or deterioration or anything's breaking down or we have to get the new one. None of that. The spiritual world is without that kind of effect. But there is the impression of time, we're told. Prabhupada told us, he said there's the impression of time, although there is not really actual time, there is the impression of time, just for the sake of pastime. Because in the spiritual world, Krishna also has his pastimes, and his pastimes are influenced by time. Just like he will dance Rasa Leela in the night, and in the daytime he'll go out with the cows to the forest. So in the spiritual world, these things are all going on. Krishna's going to the forest every day, he's going out in the morning, he's waking up and is, getting ready to go off to the forest, to run into the forest with the cowherd boys, take the cows there. And it's his pastime. So that influence of time is definitely there to facilitate Krishna's enjoyment. So Krishna, of course, he doesn't need to sleep, but he may sleep, just like when he goes with the cowherd boys, sometimes they will sleep, sometimes they'll take a rest. They'll lay down and have a rest, lay down under a tree. And so for the pleasure of his devotees, Krishna will do these things. Not that Krishna's tired, not that he needs to sleep, but he will do it, he will enjoy it because it's for his pleasure. Mother Yashoda, also she's taking care of Krishna. She's a mother and she likes to see her son. She wants to take care of her son, and she thinks of her son like an ordinary child, and she will put him to rest and she'll wake him up in the morning. So all these things will be there. Everything which goes on in the material world is there in the spiritual world, but there's no decay.
Yes, Maharaj. Definitely that Krishna might be creating darkness by his Yoga Maya potence.
Yes.
And in the Vaikuntha also, Maharaj, they have some pastimes in Vaikuntha planet also.
Yes, but different pastimes. Krishna's not a cowherd boy in Vaikuntha. In Vaikuntha, Krishna's the prince of Dwarka. So it's a different mood, different pastimes.
Yes, Maharaj. And Maharaj, one more question. Maharaj, in all the incarnations like Narsingh Bhagwan and Varadev, Vamandev, do they have their pastimes also in Vaikuntha's planet?
Yes. Yes, they do. They're all in Vaikuntha.
Yes, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj.
Arshna Bhakti Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I wanted to ask a question regarding, it says that the Lord is transcendental to the fallible and the infallible. So there are two types of beings, the fallible and the infallible, and it is said that those who are in the spiritual world are infallible. So Maharaj and Krishna, but the infallible means they never fall down, they are transcendental already. So Krishna is transcendental to infallible and fallible, it is said. Infallible, understandable, but infallible, how to understand that, Maharaj?
They're liberated souls. They're Nitya Siddhas, eternally perfect souls. They've come to that position. They're free of the conditioning. They've come to that position of pure consciousness. They're all pure devotees. So they're infallible. They never fall down. Is that all right?
No, Maharaj. Maharaj, I'm not able to. Maharaj, I wanted to know, so what is transcendental to the infallible? I'm not able to...
Oh, you mean Krishna is described as transcendental to the infallible?
Yes, Maharaj. So how to understand that? Because they are already infallible. Krishna is also sometimes addressed as infallible. And how to understand that something is like transcendental to the transcendental? The infallible are transcendental.
Where is this?
This is like, you said, no, Maharaj, that there are two classes. This is 15.16.
Okay, let me find the statement here. 15, 16. Okay, there are two classes of being, the fallible and the infallible. In the material world, every living entity is fallible. And in the spiritual world, every living entity is called infallible. So, Krishna is also infallible.
Yeah, but you said that Krishna is transcendental to both of them, which means he is transcendental to the infallible also.
Let me read. Besides these two, there is the greatest living personality, the Supreme Soul, the imperishable Lord Himself, who has entered the three worlds and is maintaining them. Just a minute, there's one more.
Verse 18.
Because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible. So, because I am transcendental, beyond both the fallible and the infallible, and because I am the greatest, I am celebrated both in the world and in the Vedas as that Supreme Person. So, yes, Krishna is transcendental. The infallible living entities are also transcendental. But Krishna is above them. Krishna is above the infallible because Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Right? He's above them. He's not like an ordinary living entity. He's not a jiva. These are all jivas. The fallible and the infallible are jivas. But the Supreme Lord, He's the Supreme Lord. He's the Swayam Bhagavan.
Yes, Maharaj.
So certainly He's above them.
Yeah, because the infallible are also transcendent, so I was confused, Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yes?
Maharaj, can I ask you one more question?
Yes.
Maharaj, it is said that in where did we find that you said that one should desire when one sees the opulence of the when one learns about the spiritual world, then he should desire. He should get. Srila Prabhupada said that he should desire to go back to the spiritual world. He should be attracted to the spiritual world. When we hear about the descriptions of the spiritual world, that there is no electricity and things like that. So, and then it is, it is said that Ananya Bhaktas, they don't even desire the planet of the abode of the Lord. They don't desire anything. So, how to understand these two things, Maharaj?
Well, you have to come to that level of Ananya Bhakta. You know, we're not Ananya Bhaktas yet. So in the beginning, you have to desire. If we don't desire in the beginning, then we'll never become Ananya Bhaktas.
Okay,
Ananya Bhakta, that's the goal, you know, to get up to that stage. But in the beginning, we have to desire. We have to really want to go to the spiritual world. So we have to cultivate this kind of desire.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So not a contradiction. We have to go.
Krishna Prabhu?
Yes?
Dhanavad Maharaj. Maharaj, I am always having this confusion. Who actually desires? You mentioned that the soul, living entity, is eternal and spiritual in nature. While we are seeing that the soul is getting conditioned by the material nature and then there are desires. So who is desiring? And whose desire is being sanctioned by the super soul?
Yes, we are desiring. The living entity, ourselves, we are desiring. It's our desire. And the material nature facilitates that desire under the sanction of the Lord.
So that means the soul has got polluted.
Soul has got what?
The soul has got conditioned. The soul has got polluted.
I can't understand. Soul has got what?
Polluted, Maharaj. Or conditioned, Maharaj.
Soul has got conditioned?
Yeah.
No.
The soul has got polluted.
The soul can have desire. The soul has desire. We want to serve Krishna or we don't want to serve Krishna. We have that free will. Alright? We have some independence. And the misuse of the independence is where we desire to leave Krishna's service. That is the misuse of our independence. That free will. We have that independence. Krishna does not force us that we have to stay with him. He does not force us that we have to serve him. He gives us independence to choose. So soul has that facility. We desire which way we want to go. As soon as we desire away from Krishna, then we come under the modes of nature. We come under the three modes of nature, the gunas, Rajagun, Tamagun, Sattvagun, and they're controlling us. But when we desire for the service of Krishna, then it's then we're under the Daivi Prakriti. Mahatmanas tumam parta Daivim Prakritim Ashrita. The great souls are under the protection of my divine energy. So Krishna explains there, either way we're controlled. We're always controlled. Either we're controlled by the material energy or the spiritual energy. But we have that free will to choose which way who do we want controlling us? Maya or Krishna? The internal potency or the external potency? That is the free will of the soul. So yes, we desire. Krishna said, we are responsible for our situation. We cannot say, oh, Krishna put me here. We cannot say, oh, the material nature put me. We did it, our own desire, the desire of the living entity. We have that right. We desire. And according to our desire, we put ourselves into a situation. Right? The material nature facilitates it and Krishna sanctions it. But it's our desire.
Can we take more questions, Maharaj?
Yes, if there are.
Arshna Bhakti Radha Mataji.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I forgot to lower my hand. Sorry.
Okay, that's okay. Saru Krishna Prabhu.
Also lowering my hand, Prabhu, sorry.
Okay. Ganga Prasad Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
From text number 13, it's mentioned about Krishna become moon, thereby supply the juice of life to all vegetables. In the purport, Prabhupada mentioned the vegetables become succulent and delicious. I just wanted to know if it is also inclusive in our understanding of juice of life, the medicinal properties in vegetables, like the healing properties, like the Sanjivani leaf that Hanuman brought from the Himalayas to heal Lakshman. Can this also be included in the understanding of the juice of life in the vegetables?
That's an interesting one. Yeah, you could think like that. Why not? The juice of life, these different powers which are there in the herbs and in the different grasses and so on, they're all put there. Everything is put there by the grace of Krishna. See, we go to chemical factories, we synthesize everything, and so many chemicals and drugs, but everything is there in nature. You can heal everyone by nature cure. Everything is provided by the grace of Krishna. If we depend on Krishna, it's better. Thank you, Prabhu. Very interesting point. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj. Gita Indulekha Mataji.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, like you told us, the soul desires, and we can also say that subtle body also desires. So both of them are desiring, like
subtle body. Yes. Well, the subtle body is that it's the manifestation. Is given to us, right? Subtle body is, why did we get that subtle body? It was our initial desire. The initial desire comes from the living entity. And the result of that desire is you get the subtle body, a particular kind of subtle body. It's not that the subtle body was independent of the soul.
yes, thank you, Maharaj.
Maros Palika Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. I want to ask if the Panchabhutas, or these 5 elements, are in some form in the spiritual world also.
Panchabhuta, the physical earth, water, fire, air, ether.
Yes.
Are they transformed into the spiritual world? In the spiritual world, everything is, well, it's not matter, right? It's all spirit. And the nature of spirit is Satchit Ananda. So everything in the spiritual world is conscious. The living entities, all the living entities there in the spiritual world are all fully conscious. The trees, the grass, the flowers, the animals, the birds, they're all fully conscious. They're all pure devotees. And they take these different forms simply for the pleasure of Krishna. So everything in the spiritual world is Satchidananda. It's like the dust is Chintamani, and the trees are all Kalpabriksha, and the cows are Kamadhenu. But at the same time, it has the appearance just like what we see the material world. Just in the material, it looks like it, just like the material world. It doesn't look so different. Everything, the animals, the birds, everything, they're all the same, but they're of a very different nature. That they all have spiritual bodies. Everything is spiritual. Although it has the appearance of what we know to be matter, to be the material world, it's not material. It's the internal potency of the Lord. Right? We know the external potency, the Bahiranga Shakti, but the spiritual world is all the Antaranga Shakti. So we don't consider it to be earth, water, fire, air, ether. But these things may appear like that there.
Thank you very much.
All right, any other question?
No, Maharaj, there is no more hand raised.
Okay, so we'll finish off here tonight and we'll meet tomorrow night. Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki.
Jai.
Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki.
Jai. Thank you so much. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Jai Guru. Maharaj ki jai. Vacha karte हैं Krishna Vaiष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः.